There we go. So welcome everybody. This is restorative yoga, and I'm bringing to you a little bit of a different approach. This is a little workshop that I took over the weekend, and I have to give credit to a yoga teacher from Edmonton. Her name is Megan, and this is her practice that we're interpreting for our restorative yoga class. And I hope you like it as much as I liked it, because it really was different and really made me feel as though I'd been restored. It's not as much holding postures and focusing on letting go into the ground. We'll do a little bit of that too. It's a little bit of movement, but well, why don't we just try it? So you'll need very few props, maybe just a blanket or two, or a pillow for your head if you like that. We're going to start standing. And I'll invite you to come to the most comfortable version of mountain pose that you can find in this moment. So your feet are the distance apart that feel right for you. If your toes turn out a little bit in this version of mountain pose, don't worry about it today. Just try to find a comfortable stance. We're going to be here for a few seconds. So let's take some time to land in mountain pose. I'm going to suggest a few places that you might direct your attention. And as best as you can, just bring your focus there and absorb whatever comes up. For example, the first place might be your feet. So if you need to wiggle or jiggle or move your feet at all, go ahead. But then just absorb from your feet. Did you know that there are 3 arches in your foot? There's the arch on the inside that we often think about. There's the arch across the ball of the foot. And then there's the arch on the outside of the foot. There's actually 3 arches in your feet. Can you feel each one of these arches on your right and on your left foot? Do you have sensations right out to the tips of your toes or not? Does it feel like one foot's a little heavier to the ground than the other, or do they feel pretty even? Do you sense that the muscles and tendons in your ankles are constantly shifting and moving around? Is there tension in your ankle joint? Can you soften that on purpose? How does that change your relationship with the ground? What are you feeling through your legs as you stand here? Are you aware of any sensation in your legs? Do you feel how your feet and your hips are connected by your legs? Can you sense any movement of energy or communication up and down your legs through the knee joints? How heavy are your pelvic bones, the big ilium bones, the pubis symphysis, the sacrum? How heavy are these bones? Can you sense the organs that are contained within that bowl of the pelvis? Maybe you've had a meal recently, because we're doing this class live at 7 p.m. Maybe you feel some heaviness in your belly because it's full from dinner, or there's something else maybe going on. Can you sense the whole diameter of your rib cage? Do you feel any movement in that area as you're breathing? What's the position of your shoulder blades on your upper back? Your right and left shoulder blade. How heavy are your arms? Does one arm seem to hang a little heavier than the other one? And what about your hands? Do you sense your hands equally or differently? How about your fingers? What kind of curl has landed in each one of your fingers? Can you relax that at all? And then feeling up into the head, into the hollow spaces in your head, and seeing if you can center your head over the column of the spine as effortlessly as possible. Once you've kind of engaged with the body from the toes to the crown, see if you can bring awareness now to your breath, breathing in and out through the nose, perhaps. And just noticing the rhythm of your breath, not trying to change it or deepen it, just noticing the rhythm of the breath. So just feeling and sensing into this standing position, into your body in this standing position. I'm going to invite you to bring your right hand onto the left shoulder, right at the front of the shoulder joint here. Just notice the feeling of bringing the hand there, and then bring your left hand up on top of the right hand. So the teacher that I learned this from calls this a joy center. And she brought some really fascinating ways to think about our subtle body anatomy. I'm still studying. I'll bring them to you in some classes coming up. But for now, let's think about this position of your hands, calling it the joy center over the front of your left shoulder. Now we're going to move a little bit with the left arm. As you're ready to inhale, let the left arm expand and move out. You can look at it if you want to. And as you exhale, bring the hand back over the right one, the joy center. Continue that movement for 3 more breaths at your own pace, encompassing the awareness of the left foot at the same time as you're expanding through the left arm. So just feeling like you did when you were standing still in mountain pose, feeling out into the left limbs and coming back to the joy center. When you've done that a total of 4 times, let's return back to mountain pose. Just notice any subtle currents in your body or sensations, rivers of sensation that might be shifting. Then when you're ready, let's do that same side again. So right hand comes over the joy center on the left side. Bring your left hand on top. And this time we'll do a little up and down with the arm. So as you inhale, bring the arm up. And exhale, hand comes over the other hand. And repeating that 3 more breaths at the pace of your own breath. Dip the chin very slightly towards the heart as you do this. Maybe even closing the eyes. Slow the movement and the breath down even more. And then after you've completed that 4 rounds of breath, let's release the arms back into mountain pose, sensing into the body. Feeling. Then let's repeat that again. Right hand coming across to the left joy center, left hand on top, left hand on top. And then we'll move a little bit with the breath and the left arm again. On the inhale, spiral the arm open. Maybe you turn a little bit towards that side. And then as you exhale, hands come on top of each other, and maybe you round out your upper back a little bit. Chin dips further towards the chest. Inhale, spreading out over to the left, and then exhale, a little rounding of the upper back, back towards the joy center. Repeating that a total of 4 breaths. And then relaxing back to mountain pose. Now, when you do this kind of somatic work, we'll call it, sensing and feeling into the body, it's not exactly relaxation. It's not exactly doing active yoga. There can be some interesting things that come up, some resistance sometimes. Maybe you're bored. Maybe this is dumb. Maybe, you'd rather be doing something else. Maybe you're tired or angry. Can you let all that be? These sensations, these thoughts. Now, this last time, we'll stay on that same side. This last time, let's work entirely with the realm of emotion and thought. So we'll bring the right hand over the front of the left shoulder, the joy center. Bring the left hand on top. And this time with just the breath. Inhale, welcome whatever's here, thoughts and emotions in particular. And exhale, allow them to sink down towards your feet and be discharged into the earth. So for the next 3 breaths, just working here at the realm of thought and emotion, welcoming whatever arises on the inhale and discharging it like a lightning bolt, really, down to the earth. So your body is that active conduit for thoughts and emotions right down to the earth. And once you have done that for 4 breaths, Let's release back to mountain pose. Sense what you sense, feel what you feel. Try to let it be fluid. And if there's like ugly, dirty things bubbling up, things you wouldn't entirely be proud of, they're welcome as well. You might also be feeling really blissed out, and that's amazing. So whatever's coming up is perfect. Taking rest in a chair or on the ground if you need to, but we can move over to the other side now. So now the left hand crosses and rests on the joy center at the right shoulder. Bringing your right hand on top. Notice that connection as your hands come together so close to your chest, so close to your heart center. And then you know the deal. On the inhale, expanding out through the right arm and feeling the right leg and foot. Exhale, coming back in. Gaze can be soft at the floor in front of you. Chin slightly tucked towards the heart center. You can also close your eyes if that helps you to focus a little bit more deeply. Slowing the breath down as you get used to this work, so you have lots of time to somatically sense all the information that comes to you from this movement. We're working really, I guess, more at the energy level here. And after you've done a total of 4 breaths, I'll meet you back into mountain pose, letting the arms hang heavy and sensing into your body, reconnecting. You can do a mini kind of scan from the feet all the way up to the crown of the head, like we did at the beginning. Now we do the movement where we move up and down with the arm. So we're moving with the right arm. Our right hand is on top here. And on the inhale, arm is opening up and down. And on the exhale, the hand comes back over the other hand at the joy center over your right shoulder. Total of 4 breaths. Moving the arm however it's comfortable for you. So there's no end game here. There's no goal here. We're exploring moving the right arm. So if you need to turn the arm, bend the elbow, not lift as high, all of that is relevant and interesting information. And when you've done that a total of 4 times, I'll meet you back into mountain pose, letting your arms hang heavily at your sides, that initial stance we started with tonight. And being aware of your body. Soma is a Greek word that means of the body. And so when we use the term somatic, we're getting into the body. We're feeling from the body. Now this is the movement where we open and close the arm. So starting the same way, hands over the joy center on the right side. Inhale, spiral the arm open. And exhale, there's a little rounding out of the upper back. Moving through that, a total of 4 breaths. Feeling how the arm invites the upper back to come into some flexion and some extension. How easy is that? How difficult is that? What comes up for you physically or otherwise? And after you've done a total of 4 breaths with this movement, bringing your hands back down to your sides, feeling and sensing in mountain pose. And then we come to our last movement, left hand on bottom, right hand on top. On the inhale, opening to the side, maybe twisting a little bit. And on the exhale, coming forward and maybe arching a little bit more dramatically in the upper back. This movement is your expression. There's no proper way to do this. There's no correct way to do this. You're really expressing the shape of your breath with the movement of the right arm. And it's a totally comfortable range of motion for you. You're not straining or working too hard. And then, after you've done that movement 4 times, 4 breaths, relaxing into your mountain pose. Arms heavy at your sides. Sensing what your experience is of this moment. And now this is the part where we do the 4 breaths in stillness, specifically focusing on welcoming thoughts or an emotion, and then discharging it down through the legs. So whenever you're ready, this part isn't a lot of movement. You're still thinking on the inhales about welcoming, and on the exhales, discharging down through the legs. A total of 4 breaths. Close your eyes if you like. The chin can be delicately tucked towards the chest. Working in the realm of thought and emotion for 1 more breath here. So you have a total of 4. And then I'll meet you back into mountain pose. Just taking a second to compare this mountain pose with the first minute or 2 you spent in this posture. Is your experience anything like mine? You just feel so much more in your body. I feel really aware of these places at the fronts of my shoulders. I do feel that there is some lighter, joyous energy starting to work there. Okay, let's come into a really easy warrior 1 stance. So take some space between your legs. Bring your right leg a little bit out to the side of your mat so that you can easily find balance here. We're going to bend into the front knee and straighten the front knee a couple times. And it's going to be like a really easy, no strain whatsoever kind of warrior 1. Let's come into this for 4 breaths. Inhaling into warrior 1 and exhaling, release. So just notice what it's like to move both of your arms now at the same time. Can you still sense the joy centers at the fronts of your shoulders and move the arms directly from there? Okay, I've got 1 more breath moving in and out of warrior 1, and then I'm going to hold warrior 1. Let your right arm relax and bend your left arm so that you drape your hand over top of your head. The heel of your palm will be right about where the part of your hair is, and your fingers are just relaxed on the right side of your head. Now press your crown a little bit actively up into the palm of your left hand. So you're staying really tall. For the next 4 breaths, let's inhale, push the crown of the head up into the hand. And as you exhale, arc to the left very gently. Now the hand is not pulling on the head. It's actually there as a reminder to push your head up into the hand actively. This lengthens the neck. We're not stretching the neck. We're lengthening the crown of the head up into the palm of the hand. Let's try that for 1 more breath to this side. You're gently arcing to the left here. And then inhale up, both arms can come up in your warrior 1, and then switch arms. So now your right hand is resting at the crown of your head, the fingers draped gently over the left side of your skull. Inhale, push your head up into your hand, elongating, and then on the exhale, arc to the right. I'm not pulling with my arm at all. It is completely inert, riding on the crown of my head. I'm actually pushing the hand away as I arc, really elongating, particularly through the neck, such an important channel of energy in the body. When we've done this a total of 4 times, so I have 1 more breath to go here, we'll release back into mountain pose. So finding that original posture. And feeling, being present with whatever your experience is. Now we worked asymmetrically there. So there's some unusual information somatically moving to the brain. What does that stimulate? What does that release? What does that do for you? I don't know about you, but when things are a little bit uncomfortable for me, I want to make a change right away. So I often will, I got to get on that. I got to change that. I'm not going to stay there. And I've been finding it so interesting, especially, as winter drags on and things are, sometimes difficult, I find it so interesting to try to just take some time to feel and just, okay, what's on the other side of that initial discomfort? What's behind that? What's coming up? This is somatic work. Okay, let's go to the other side. You kind of know what's happening now. Got a couple different movements we do from this leg position. So when you're ready to inhale, come into a very easy warrior one with your right knee bent, and then exhale, pull back out. We do that a total of 4 breaths. Notice lifting both arms at the same time. Notice the transfer of weight between your legs as you come into the pose. Notice any instability that reveals itself. We wanted to do a really easy, accessible version of the pose, so you have a lot of time to think about this stuff. Good. Last breath for me, I'm doing a total of 4. And then next time we come into the posture, we'll hold the bent right knee. And then release your left arm, bring the right hand to the crown of the head, let the fingers relax. So take a moment to make sure you truly are relaxing your right shoulder. The joy center at the front of the shoulder is open, like a wide open cat's eye. Inhale here, pushing the crown of the head up into your palm, and exhale, angle gently over towards the left. Inhale, come back up, pushing the crown of the head up into the hand, and then angling that lengthened neck off to the left. Now my hand is not pulling my neck and creating a stretch. And after you've done that, a total of 4 breaths, we'll inhale back into your warrior one again and change hands. Letting the fingers relax over the crown of the head, making sure your left arm is very relaxed. Inhale, press your hand up into the crown, or your crown up into the hand, and then exhale, arc over to the right. And a total of 4 breaths here. Keep elongating the crown of the head up into the palm and moving just subtly so you have time to feel all the waves of sensation. After this breath, I will have done 4 in this variation. I'm going to release back into mountain pose. We're going to do our last little bit of standing movement now, but before we do, give yourself a chance to rest and to feel. You may need to sit or lie down. Sometimes this work is, pretty deep stuff, so take the rest that you need. Okay, let's bring to the center of the chest now. Left hand, right hand. And I've chosen to bring the pads of my thumbs together and let the other fingers kind of wing out, creating a specific mudra over my heart. Be ready to bend your knees quite a bit as we come into forward fold. So this is the inhale here. As you exhale, soften your knees, run your hands down the backs or sides of your legs until you come as far forward as you can. Bend your knees as much as you need to. And then inhale, bring your arms or hands up the front of the legs and come back to the mudra at the heart as you finish your inhale. Exhale forward again. We'll do this for a total of 4 breaths. So you're up and down the legs, finishing in front of the heart. Bend your knees as much as you need to make this a very comfortable movement. And then let's pause. You can let the arms rest at your sides, feeling into mountain pose. Welcoming sensation, welcoming emotion, welcoming thought, even if it's not really that pretty. Now let's take your right hand on the bottom, left hand on the top, and repeat 4 breaths, coming back to this gesture at the heart if you feel it's compelling. It's amazing how changing the way your hands are held can really, captivate your imagination or captivate or move your energy differently. So inhale here, and as you exhale, hands run down the sides or the backs of your legs, as low as you can go really comfortably. And then as you come back up, hands run over the fronts of the legs and body until you come back into the mudra. And then come back down. Total of 4 breaths. Coming in and out of forward fold. Slowing it down even more if that's possible, just so that you have a lot of time to process what's going on. And then when you've completed a total of 4 breaths, last mountain pose for a while anyway, as you just let the ripples of energy or sensation continue to settle in the best way. Now, the next little sequence of events happens on hands and knees. Remember, it's always accessible to bring your hands onto a chair if you would prefer not coming all the way down onto your knees. So I'm going to get a blanket out just to cushion my knees and find table pose. Now, if you're using the chair, I'm going to suggest that you just sit down on the chair, maybe rest your head between your knees. If you're with us on the ground, widen out your knees a little bit and push back into a really easy version of child's pose. Now, if child's pose is not comfortable for your knees, this is where you'll want to get the chair and find a resting position in the chair. So it could be seated upright or just resting with your head between your knees on the chair. I'd like to take a few breaths here. So settle in and try to be as comfortable as you can, seated in a chair or in child's pose. Notice how folding your body, either seated or on the ground in child's pose, notice how folding your body has changed the sensations. Perhaps closing your eyes, noticing if your chin can rest a little closer to your chest. And observing, welcoming sensation. Taking a couple more breaths here in stillness if you can. Even the biggest rock that drops in the pond, the ripples smooth out sooner or later. Just a couple more breaths in your child's pose or your seated child's pose. Just welcoming, just being present, noticing sensations as they arise. For me, in child's pose, it's not an easy posture. I know every beginner learns it, but I find I get extremely restless. Things don't always feel comfortable. So can we be here just long enough that we can see what's on the other side of that restlessness or that discomfort? Can we be patient and a bit of curious, even a bit playful with this pose? All right, staying here longer if you want to, but if you're ready for a bit more movement, coming up to hands and knees, or you could be using the chair is fine, the way I demonstrated a second ago. Align your shoulders more or less over your wrists. If you're standing, try to have a tiny bend to your knees. Inhale here, just in table pose. And as you exhale, turn your gaze to see if you can get a gander at your right hip. And then inhale, straighten back out into normal table. And exhale, see if you can turn without any real strain and find your right hip. Try that for 2 more breaths, moving slowly, being careful not to crank your neck aggressively, But what can you do? Where do you have to move your other parts of your body in order to be able to see your right hip? After you've done that, let's return to our child's pose. So you may have to widen out your knees if you're on the ground like me, or you just turn around and sit back down in your chair if you've been using a chair for this. Notice if there's a way to be a bit more comfortable this time in child's pose. Can you get blankets or pillows? Can you bring your hands under your forehead to create a pillow if you don't have anything else handy? What can you do to nurture yourself to make this easier for you? You're worth that. I can't tell you how many times I hear that thought in my head. Oh, never mind, it's not worth doing that for me. I can't tell you how often I hear myself saying that out loud and in my head. So let's replace that thought. It's worth it to be a little bit more comfortable in this pose right now. Take a couple more breaths. And then let's come back to table pose again. Adjusting yourself exactly the same way as you did before. And we'll take 4 breaths to the other side. So inhale in a neutral table. And as you exhale, see what you have to do to try to see your left hip. And then come back on the inhale. Take a total of 4 breaths. Notice which side seems a little bit more accessible. Sometimes there's a difference. And when you've done a total of 4 times to the left, let's come back to child's pose. Each time you come into the child's pose, can you discern that there's been subtle changes in how your body adjusts? Can you feel the breath moving in different ways when you're kind of compressed like this? And then returning to table pose at your leisure, I'd like to do breaths to the right and then breaths to the left. So moving in both directions. Inhale, table pose. Exhale, turn to look and see what you can of your right hip. Inhale to center, and exhale, see what you can do to try to find a gaze at your left hip. Go back and forth a total of 4 times. Looking at your right hip a total of 4 times, your left hip a total of 4 times. Slow it down a little more if possible, so there's more time for sensation. There's more time to register the sensation. And then I'll meet everybody back into child's pose. This will be our last child's pose. So note what you note, learn what you can. And then may I invite you to come down onto your mat, and we're going to rest there in a mini Shavasana. So as minimal props as you can manage coming down onto your Shavasana, so that every spot in your body is as close to ground as you can manage. We're only going to be here for about 60 seconds. So coming to lie down on the ground, legs outstretched if possible, arms outstretched if possible, and I'm not going to talk for 60 seconds. So my computer hasn't clicked off. I'm just giving you some quiet time for everything to settle in as it needs to. Okay. So taking more time to rest, if that's proving to be a good thing, then I'm going to invite you to notice your right leg. See if you can embrace awareness of your right leg from the foot up through the whole leg to the hip. Remember, we were standing a little while ago and we were saying, is that right leg an energy line up to your body? So noticing that. Slowly bending your right knee, dragging your right foot along the floor heavily until you've got your right knee in a comfortable bent position. Switching your awareness now to the left leg, noticing the bodily impact of switching to the left leg, and then slowly dragging the left foot a little closer, bending the left knee until both knees are now bent, both feet on the floor. And hopefully your legs feel grounded and centered to the ground, centered in your awareness. Now, if we can, I'd like to invite imagination and impose an old-fashioned analog clock face on your sacrum. So the sacrum is the wide, flat bone that you now feel pressing into the floor. And let's imagine that there's a 12 o'clock on that sacrum, on that clock, and it's up by your waistband of your pants. And there's a 6 o'clock, and it's down at the tailbone end of your spine. So from neutral, where you are right now, I'm going to invite you to perhaps move one hand to the belly, perhaps the other hand to the side of your rib cage, as long as your arms can rest on the ground and you don't feel any strain in your shoulders. Those joy centers can stay soft and open. And then when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to take from this neutral position, inhale, and as you exhale, press down on 12 o'clock, which is the part of the clock face that's closest to your waistband. And then inhale, go back just to neutral. And then exhale, rock to 12 o'clock, and then to neutral. And try that a total of 4 breaths. Feeling how your pelvis moves, what's going on in your belly as you do that movement. And then rest for a breath. Then let's switch that. Inhale and neutral. And as you exhale, rock down to 6 o'clock, so more the tailbone end of things. And then come back to neutral as you inhale. Notice the difference. This is a very small movement, I know, but it's also a very potent movement. How does the rest of your spine react to this movement? And after you've done a total of 4 breaths or so, relax that movement. Just come back to stillness, take another breath. And then we can explore the full range from 12 to 6 o'clock and back to 12 o'clock. So go ahead whenever you're ready, pressing down at 12, then going to press down at 6. And this time you'll notice I didn't specify a particular way to breathe in or out. I'd like you to let your breath be fluid and soft and instinctive while you focus more on the sensations of the movement. What's happening in your lower back, what's happening in your belly as you go through this range of motion, what kinds of sensation are rippling up your spine. What does your neck and head want to do? Let's take 1 or 2 more breaths, just exploring this movement at any individual pace that works. And then you can release the movement and reverse back to straight legs. So just like you did before, feel the right foot really heavy and let the right leg slowly stretch out and flop down to the floor. And then the same thing with the left leg, really kind of making a whole practice of just straightening out your legs one at a time and letting each leg connect to ground. Again, let's take a few quiet seconds to absorb.
When you're ready, let's try something else. So you remember how we bent the knees one leg at a time? Let's start with the left leg this time. So slowly drag the left heel in, feel the left knee bend. Once the left foot is firmly planted, start with the right side until eventually you come back to that same bent knee position, but hopefully your legs feel heavy and grounded and planted. Let's draw awareness back to your sacrum. Use your imagination to impose that clock face on the sacrum again. But now imagine where 3 o'clock would be and where 9 o'clock would be. So you're over at the sides, not up and down, but you're over at the sides now. So let's go from the middle point out to 9 o'clock and come back. Do that a total of 4 breaths. Try to keep your legs relaxed and your buttocks relaxed. Notice what you need to do to shift, downshift on that one hip, pressing that side of the sacrum firmer into the ground on your exhale. After a total of 4 breaths, take a break, breathe in and out. And then find 3 o'clock, pushing that part of the sacrum down on the exhale. So you're tipping your hips over to 3 o'clock. You can let your hands move from your body onto the bumper bones now and feel this side to side rocking and shifting. If that helps with your somatic connection. Okay, after 4 breaths, let's release rocking to 3 o'clock. Take a breath to rest. And then just like we did with the initial sequence, we're going to see about going right across from 3 to 9, 9 to 3. Take your time. There's no specific breathing pattern prescribed here. Just discover your breath as it emerges. And then so you're pressing down with one hip and then going over to the other side, crossing from 3 to 9 on your imaginary clock face and back. Try to keep this movement mindful, not routine, discovering these kinds of interesting aspects of your pelvis. When you feel you've kind of moved enough, and it's amazing when I do this, how tired the muscles in my low back get. So you might discover that this is really fundamental work. Can you stretch your legs out starting with the left leg, please? Like we did before. So one leg stretches out slowly, gets really heavy before you release the other leg. And we'll just take another one of our little mini Shavasanas. I won't talk for a minute. My computer's still here. I just am letting you process. Taking more time to rest if that's appropriate. I will invite you now to roll over onto your belly. If you want to continue with this little bit of somatic kind of movement, you can roll over onto your belly. Stretch your legs out behind you. Bring your hands underneath your forehead with your right hand on top of your left. So creating a pillow under your forehead with your hands, right hand on the top. Take a second to notice how different it feels to be in this position. Now, if being on your belly is really not working for you, come back over onto your back, rest in Shavasana. We'll be rejoining you in just a moment. So right now, if you can, you're lying on your belly, hands under your head as a pillow, right hand on top of your left. Relax your body towards the ground. The movement here is to keep your forehead and your hands connected. But as you inhale, lift up slightly from the floor, just so you can kind of angle and look towards your right. And then exhale, lower back down to where you started. So try that for a total of 4 breaths. Forehead and hands stay together. You lift on the inhale and slowly tip just a little bit over to the right. Your bottom elbow will prevent you from going too far. It's just a little gaze, little looking over to the right. And when you've done that a total of 4 times, settle back down. Take a breath between sides. Change your hands so now that the left hand is on top. Your head stays on your hands as you inhale, lift the chest a couple inches and angle a little bit to the left. A total of 4 breaths. Try to slow it down if you can, so you have lots of time to really appreciate the subtleties of this. When you've done a total of 4 breaths, come back to neutral and rest. Breathing in and breathing out. And then switch the hands so the right hand is on top again. Now you can rest right here. You can do what we just did, or you can add. If you want to add on, you inhale, lift up, turn slightly to the right, and lift your left leg simultaneously. And then exhale, lower back down. Leg comes down, hands and arms and head come down. Inhale, lift your arms, lift your head, turn slightly to the right, and lift the left leg. And do that for a total of 4 breaths. And then come back down to the ground. Stillness for a breath. Switch it so the left hand is on top. And when you inhale, lift your chest, lift your arms, lift your head, turn slightly to the left and lift the right leg. Exhale, lower everything down. And a total of 4 breaths with that combination of movement. And the movements aren't very big. Tomorrow morning, you can go whole hog and do Superman or pose or Shavasana pose till the cows come home. This is a very small, subtle movement. And then when you've done a total of 4 breaths with the right leg lifting, rest. Once you've had a couple breaths to rest after movement, slowly transfer over onto your back. Take your time. Notice which way you instinctively roll. Did you roll to your right? Did you roll to your left? Just interesting question to ask. Once you're over onto your back, drag your feet closer to your body so your knees are bent. And then really see if you can sense how the weight lifts up on the right leg as you lift the right foot. It leaves the contact with the floor and you draw the right knee in toward your body. And then sense the lightening of the left foot as you slowly release contact with the floor and bring your left knee in toward your body. Let your hands rest on your knee knobs and come into Apanasana. So on the inhales, you push your legs away, your arms will be straight. And on the exhale, you'll bring your knees a little closer into your chest and your elbows will bend slightly. This is not the time to do your deepest stretch. This again is subtle movement. So there's not so much deep sensation from the physical side of things. We have more time to process the subtle side of things. Slow it down even more if you can. Notice the pace of your breathing. Notice how deep your breath is moving in your body now. Notice your connection to breath. Slowly, on your next inhale, release your left foot to the floor and then your right foot to the floor, taking time to really feel that physical impact of grounding each foot individually, and then straightening your legs out. You can do them one at a time or together, and we'll come into Shavasana. We will be here for a few minutes, so if you feel you want to get some pillows or blankets to be more comfortable, to stay warm enough, then let's make that little bit of adjustment. Try to move into any adjustments, getting socks on or grabbing for more pillows and blankets. Try to make these movements as mindful and conscious as all of the other movements that we've had throughout the practice tonight, so that you're really aware of how you're moving and how these different movements ripple through the body. Even though you might be moving an arm, you might feel that all the way down the opposite leg or into your spleen, or, all these different things. When you slow down and you really sense into the body, these routine movements can have deep and profound impacts. So settling toward the ground when you can, and coming into Shavasana. The suggestion here is you might close your eyes so that you have less distraction from what's going on internally. And then looking again, like we did at the beginning of class, to what your experience is. So let's look at the feet. See if you can sense the parts of your feet that are connected to the ground. Can you still feel the flowing bridges of your arches, even though they're not pressed into the earth? Can you feel the volumes of your toes? Or even the spaces amongst the bones of your feet? So connecting to your feet as sensory information. Direct experience of your feet as they rest in Shavasana. And then noticing the sacrum that we worked with earlier. Feeling the whole clock face of the sacrum sinking toward the ground, connecting to the ground. Can you feel from the feet up your legs to the sacrum and then back down? So each one of your legs, not something you stand on, not something you do warrior one pose with, but each one of your legs is electrical current, alive and full of sensation. And switching awareness to your fingers, hands, arms, noticing the places that are connected to ground, or feeling the weight of a blanket or your sweater. And perhaps sensing how the tips of the fingers are connected directly into your heart center in the middle of your chest by the arms. Not just arms that you use to cook dinner or even hug a friend, but electrical currents, vibrant with aliveness between your hands and your heart. And then moving awareness to the shape change occurring in your body as you breathe. As breath fills your body, notice what shifts shape, what stretches out, what softens and gives. And as you exhale, feel what returns home, hunkers down, plugs in again. See if you can feel this oscillation in the pelvic floor, in the low back, in the rib cage, even the collarbones. Can you let your head be a little heavier? What happens to the open column of your neck and throat when you consciously release the weight of your head toward the ground? Can you discern a softening right in your ear canals, in the muscles behind your eyes, in the lips, in the tongue, and the jaw? Again, I'm going to be quiet for just a couple seconds. I'm still here, but just to give you a chance to receive and to be attuned to whatever sensations are here now. If you have a little bit more time to stay in Shavasana and continue to learn from this practice, please do. It might be interesting to return to Tadasana or mountain pose one last time. So you can do that right from where you are, like a horizontal mountain pose. Or you can slowly make your way up to a standing position, mindfully with awareness. And then from wherever you are, I'd like to close our class, tuning back into the body, the sensations of being exactly where we are. If you have chosen to come to mountain pose, it might be very interesting to compare what it felt like from an hour ago. And then let's share the sacred sound of Om to close. I'm inhaling now. Om. Namaste. So if you would like to unmute, I'm going to stop the recording.